Good afternoon. It's Joyful Christian Hermit. I'm going to read this selection. It's a catechesis, a study teaching by Saint Theodore the Studite. And I've got my ice on. I'm all set with pain med now. I had to take a breakthrough pain med because I stood at the counter and cut up strawberries to freeze. I did about 3 cups worth in that, just maybe 10, 15 minutes at most. Killer mid-back. So I'm laying flatter than usual and got this ice pack right on the middle of the spine. And this morning I did try, this was a good thing I tried, but then a good thing I looked up why I shouldn't take a leave. Plus, it just does nothing for me. I woke up in the morning, I always do, stripped, because the 12-hour release is all worn out. And so I take another 12-hour release pain med. Plus, I need, at this point in my pain existence, I need to take a breakthrough pain med right away. But I thought, I'm going to try in a leave. Maybe I'm missing out on something. So I did, and then I was in real trouble because the pain got out of control. So I wasn't up and doing things until about 12:30 today. But that's good considering how ill with pain I was yesterday. It was really amazing. I was up at all. I went outside with the pups then and watered the things that are in their pots that need to be put in the ground. I need to get going on that. And then we got the trash cans put away. It's been 2 days. That might come in a letter threatening me that the trash cans need to be put away. I've been too wiped out. Because I had to move things around in the garage to get them in. And you honestly have to have the strength and the focus to be able to function. Pain is powerful. It can zap your energy in a flash. So, and I had to cook some soup. I had to get something to eat. Plus, I hard cooked some eggs to have that for some fast protein, hard cooked egg. Oh, we've got to do things, to keep going around here. And with the hermit, there's no one doing it for me, although my sweet neighbor said she had a chicken salad sandwich with my name on it over there. She texted me that last evening if I needed it, but I was so nauseated I didn't dare have anything with any salad dressing in it. It didn't sound like it would go down well, and the chicken soup with rice was marginal. So anyway, we dug up some weeds, the dogs and I did, and watered things, and they sniffed around. They loved doing that, and went to the bathroom, and we picked up their bathroom stuff and trying to keep the yard nice. So back inside, then I noticed, the strawberries were getting really ripe from the heat we had. It's cooler today. So I had quite a haul of strawberries. That's why I was cutting them up. So, there were probably 6 cups, full ones, but once you cut them up, it makes it smaller. So, you can fit more in a container. But got back down, and yes, this morning the Aleve did not touch. So then I had several hours it took me to catch back up. If the pain gets out of control, it just takes you a lot longer to get it under control then. That's why if you're on pain medication, you have to stay on it steadily. You can't let the pain get out of control. Or you end up having to take more to get it back in control. You don't want to do that. I don't anyway. So, handled that, but I did look up Aleve. It can cause kidney and liver damage and failure. So that's why I'm off it. Not only acetaminophen does that, but Aleve also. But Aleve also will cause gut issues, nausea, and pain in the stomach. It can burn the stomach. It's strong. So you wouldn't want to take it regularly. And I had up until early 2009. That's when I had to go on. I went on very low dose pain med then, very low dose. But the nurse then, she's the one that explained, you can't just take it when you have a pain attack, a bad pain episode. You've got to stay on it, or you're just constantly in a cycle of out of control pain, and then you try to get on top of it, and the system is better to have a regimen. Then you don't have to take as much when it's out of control. So better to take low dose, obviously. But she's the one that explained to me too. Well, a nurse had way back with my surgery in 1987 explained you're not going to be addicted if you have actual pain. The medicine goes and works, does what it's supposed to do. And Mayo Clinic site explains that. That if you get high and you're taking pain med, it means you don't really have bad pain. But the only way to conquer bad pain of arachnoiditis, the Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic, those are the ones I trust the most, is opioids. Is it for arachnoiditis. You can try other things, gabapentin and whatever else, which I've tried. Anything that they come up with, new. But nothing has helped me. So, why take, and the gabapentin made me all wired. I had bad effects from that, so, and it didn't help the pain, for me anyway. But if other people get help, it's like Dr. H selling the super patch. I decided I'm sending them back. Just going to tell them the truth. The research isn't good on it, good enough for me. I'm not going to risk the side effects. And it's mostly a placebo from what I read. I don't like the model of it. It hasn't been researched outside of the company's own research. And you can't trust that, obviously. They're selling it and making fantastical claims on those things. And then I wouldn't buy them anyway. They're too costly for me. Even if they did work, you can't write them off. It's an unknown. It's not been approved drug. It's far-fetched. Supposedly it has little imprint, and you put it on your skin, and the design on it signals the brain. Like you can have a peace patch if you're not peaceful, and your brain will pick up those vibes from that patch, from the little raised area on it through the skin. Your brain will pick up the sensations and you'll become peaceful, or you won't have pain, or you'll feel victorious, or you'll have a sense of wellness, or there's 10 different kinds. And it's psychosomatic is what it boils down to. Some people report it helps them. Most say no. They didn't do anything, or they got bad side effects. Rashes, nausea, headaches, I don't know, just different things. And I don't need more nausea. I already have headache. I don't need worse. I don't want a rash. It's not worth the risk to me or the cost, and I don't want to use them up for nothing. Let him have them, and if somebody else wants to use them, that's fine. He's selling them. And it's also not a recommended, it's not a good model, sales model for a company. It's not really legitimate. It's crummy companies do that, where the person will buy in order to sell it. And their only sales pitch are these claims. Like he told me how his fiance was anxious. She'd come home from work and be uptight, and he'd give her a peace patch. She'd calm down immediately. Was so calm. But he's convinced. He's sold, obviously, and he wants other people. But I think he genuinely wants to help people. He's been off on this, away from. He was an excellent psychologist, but it wasn't enough for him. He wants to be able to heal people, to actually have healing, but he's not interested in religious, in God healing. It's always some technique. Like there was this one man, he tried to convince me to try it because he wants me not to have pain, even though he heard through the most incredible mystical experiences right in front of him, being told, God talking aloud, used my voice and altered it, and even explained. Steve wanted to ask even questions, how is this working? And God explained it to him using terms that humans could understand, and he tape recorded it all. I have it all transcribed. All this wisdom that I was given over about a 6-week period of time with Steve tape recording, Dr. H tape recording. And the one time he wanted to know, why couldn't I be healed? And God said, that while on earth I would, or would I ever be healed? While on earth I would know earthly pain. And explained that he had other uses for me. See, so God doesn't view pain and suffering as we do. And I have to admit, when I'm in horrible pain, like even today, I'm starting to get concerned because I'm not keeping up. I've got so much to do. But that's sort of good, though. It forces me to get up. I'm not going to be able to stay in bed until I really, really cannot get up at all. It pushes me, always pushing me. The pain is. But the mess I have is pushing me more. So it's this battle going on that I'm got to keep getting up. I've got to do some mowing in front of the grass. The grass gets too high where the dogs like to go to the bathroom. So I've got to cut at least that part today. And then the rest can wait a day or two. But, but I'm not making much progress on things. I'm very, very slow. And I have to learn to be content with that. There's only 2 people who think I'm too slow. God isn't telling me I'm too slow. And I have to keep in mind, it's okay if this never gets done. I'm living in here okay. I'm content. I don't put my clothes away. I get to the point it's too much energy to put them in the drawers or to hang them up. I have them piled over there on top of the dog crates. And then it's easier to get them on or to take them off. Why make more work for myself? That's how it is. But, okay. So, there's reasons for pain and for suffering. And we do our best. Pray for grace. Pray for grace to get through to the end. That's what I'm praying for, is that I can cope with this pain and make it to the end, to a natural death. That's what I'm hoping for. Here is Theodore the Studite, 5th century, although this actually shows a little later. But I just read online a little bit ago that it was 5th century. He's a 5th century monk, but it looks like it's more 6th century, 759, 826, even close to 7th century. But St. Theodore was a monk in Constantinople. And a Studite, it was a monastery. Oh, this is the reality of it. The monastery, St. Theodore the Studite, he was a Studite of the Studite monastery. The monastery was developed in the 5th century by a Roman named Studius. That's the reality of this situation. Studius, a Roman, built this monastery and became a monk in the 5th century. St. Theodore, Mercy keeps licking my hand. Bless your little sweetheart, Mercy. You're such a sweet puppy, aren't you? She's just all laid out up here with her arm out to be rubbed. Aren't you spoiled babies? So, St. Theodore was born in 759, died in 826. He was a monk in this Studius's monastery, long after Studius had died. And he wrote this, though, the Great Catechesis, number 79. Your grief will turn to joy. It's based on St. John's Gospel, chapter 16, verse 20. Oh, Mercy, that's getting to be a little much. Well, don't lick me, though, please. I'll rub your foot. I just don't want you to lick me right now. Ever, really. I think it's a little much. So, this is what St. Theodore wrote. Your grief will turn to joy. You know it well yourself. The pains give birth to rest, and surely the afflictions succeed the joys. The groans are bringing forth the pleasures of the soul, and the narrow doors give birth to free spaces, the hunger and the fasts. The tight throat produce eternal choirs. The thirst and the burning salivas make, as the Lord says, spring forth the waters of eternal life. And to also bring you the words of the holy psalmist David, those who sow in tears harvest in joy. That was from Psalm 125. Now, out of these, I think I like this imagery here. Narrow doors give birth to free spaces. It does have that effect. The more narrow the space you crawl through or you squeeze through, makes what you get into seem all the larger, doesn't it? As the groans are bringing forth the pleasures of the soul, afflictions succeed the joys, the pains give birth to rest, the thirst and the burning salivas make and spring forth the waters of eternal life. I mean, the tight throat produces eternal choirs. People who sing, they train their throats to tighten to make different sounds come out. So I still like the narrow door produces open space, gives that effect. And I will say, and a priest used to tell me this, that when I would have the headache pain sieges, the ones that my regular headache would go extreme, get this horrific spinal headache, and it was like screamer. It was horrid, and it would take like a real strong injection. I'd have to get knocked out with them, and that was rough. When I was in the Midwest for quite a while, people would take me to the ER, and my neighbors or somebody, and say, look, and I would get an injection. I had a letter from my GP in California as to what dosage worked, because he experimented to finally find, and it was a really strong injection of Demerol and Vistral, both. But they usually wouldn't give me that. But finally, a pediatrician who knew me for a while sent the visiting nurse, the home care nurse, and he would tell her to give me that injection. So that was better. That was really, my girls were already in college then, though. They'd gone through a lot of years of me with the terrible, since between California in the Midwest when I couldn't get the medicines then. So my son was in high school, and I would at least get adequately knocked out, but it could be terrible. But after I would come out of all, and it would last 24 hours. The shot would knock me out for about 24 hours. Then I would still suffer like 3 to 5 more days. Rarely would the whole thing be over in 3 or 4 days. It was quite a pain siege that I would have. And somehow this pump being put in affected the arachnoiditis, but in a good way. I don't have those terrible spinal headaches anymore. It was miraculous, really. Oh, happy fault, huh? Having the pump have to be put in, and it created other problems, created digestive problems for me through the arachnoiditis messed up nerves. But it somehow tweaked in another way. They don't have those out of control spinal headaches that I had for like, what would it be, 2000? 87, 20, 37 years. No, 33 years of those spinal headaches. And no predicting when they would hit. But sometimes they'd be like every 3 weeks. It was horrible. But after, it would be like euphoria. After the pain would lift. After that headache, I'd still have my regular headache, but I wouldn't have the out of control one. And no other medicines worked to take care of them. None of the opioids pills had to get really knocked out. One time the doctor in California put me in the hospital for a week with just round the clock Demerol injections to get me rested. He said, "You need rest." He said, "You need rest." He arranged for people in the church. He went to my Lutheran church. He was an elder and got people to take the children for the week. And then maybe by about Thursday, he started tapering off the injections. And I went home as rested as I ever was. Didn't last long, but it was so compassionate. I tell you, I needed that. Bed rest and just not worry about anything. So, God bless him. He's in heaven now. I'm sure he's in heaven. He's a wonderful man. He died 6 years ago this coming August, cancer. So, this is so true, but after, and like today, I'm, increasingly, even though it killed me standing to do the strawberries for 10 to 15 minutes, I'm just so much better than yesterday. It's like being squeezed through a narrow space. And like that meat grinder thing. My mother had one of those old-fashioned ones. My grandmother would use it, and the meat would squeeze out through the holes, but it would seem as if it was getting bigger and fatter. Or like a noodle machine, it would be a thing that you'd do, and it had different fonts type things on it, or openings, and the stuff would squeeze out, but it would sort of expand then in the open space. That's how it feels, you're being brought through from agony, and then it's and it's not the until it's over, until the worst of the pain is over, and you have been through like hell, and all of a sudden, everything seems okay again and doable. And so I'm still a little bit of, like, this morning was thinking, how am I going to manage all this? And then, just being able to do the strawberries, I thought, well, that's something that's done. And then you have to start thinking, well, what's the worst would happen? So the strawberries would rot on their little stems out there and not be edible, or the birds would get them all, or the squirrels. 4 days till the tree's down, and they're going to have to go to different place. I'm not the squirrel hostile anymore. But sort of mean of me, isn't it? But yeah, so what's the worst? It's nothing's the end of the world, is it? That's one of the gifts given during suffering that you learn. But you can build up and think, oh my, you know. And I do get that way with the grass. Like, what if the grass gets too tall? Well, then I think, oh, calm down. You know, just set the blades higher and mow it twice. What if it gets higher than that? Well, no worry. The HOA men would notice it if it was very high, and they would be on me. Then I'd probably say something to my neighbor, and she'd come over and mow it. She had never mowed it till my knee surgery, because I needed to get it mowed, and I hadn't. When I had my back surgery, they had children live next door where they live, and I hired the boy to mow it, their son, one of the kids. And when I had my knee surgery and I couldn't mow all that summer or fall, I mean, not my knee surgery, my back surgery. That was a year recovery. But with my knee replacement, she says, oh, I've never mowed. She had brothers. She says, I was never allowed to mow. My dad always did it, or my brothers. So she was desperate to experience that. So I paid her, like I would the kid, you know, I paid him. So she mowed it that summer and sort of enjoyed it. I think her husband won't let her mow. He does the mowing. So, yeah. So, you know, there's all kinds of things. Since you know these things, you know, we know how, you know, those who sow in tears harvest in joy. Suffering does bring out an appreciation of not having it so bad when the worst is over. Even though you know it's going to come again, I always have these sieges. It's going to come again, but you tend to forget it because you're just so euphoric that the horrible is over. You know, even the sickening mid-back pain I was having, and I was, you know, just talking aloud, oh my gosh, oh my Lord, help me. And the dogs were, you know, getting up and walking around. They could tell I was just like, but I wanted to get those strawberries done. And in the freezer, just get it done. Then I got the ice pack and got back here, and they came back and got up on the bed with me, and it was like, oh, good. You know, I knew I could get it under control. And I'd take a pain med and for breakthrough pain, because it was, and wait a bit for that to start working, which doesn't take long. Thanks be to God. So, but I know that there's things to be done that can be done to help it. When I get into a pain siege, like the gut attack yesterday morning, I don't know how bad it's going to get. I never know how bad. So that's a little bit more, you know, harder. It's probably how the meat feels before it's being ground through the little grinder to make hamburger. You know, how bad will this get? If they could think, they would maybe think that. But you don't have a choice. You're being put through it. But you get out the other side of it and you realize, well, I made it. And it's not the fear of death. It's just how bad it would get before you're going to die. It's the living hell that's the problem with pain and suffering and of progressive things. Like people who have cancer, you know, they get into terrible pain and they don't know how much worse it's going to get. And we don't. We have to just let go and wait and find out. And know that ultimately at some point we'll die. But I know I'm not going to die from the pain unless at some point it would cause a stroke or a heart attack or something. But with arachnoiditis, people usually get something else first, like cancer or suicide. With arachnoiditis, that's a cause of death, is suicide, because just the sheer pain of it and the constancy of it. But that's the thing that I'm praying for, the grace to die a natural death, to make it through. And I know God will give me the grace. I think so. Since you know these things, blessed are you, as it is written, if you put them in practice. But the fool will not know them, and the man without intelligence will not understand them. See, think of that. People who suffer who aren't intelligent, or little children who don't understand. Somebody needs to explain these things to them and help them, or it's too overwhelming. And someone who's foolish and thinks they don't need to understand can find themselves in very hot water when suffering comes. Yes, you are prudent and sensible, wise and intelligent, capable of thinking, and because of that you have reached some of the virtues. For others you will reach them, and I will add, you are not finished reaching them. Well, I know that of me. I still have lots of virtues left. And I feel as if I've backslid in some too. Truly. So let's stay firm in the fight, my brothers, and continue to exhaust the pits of perseverance. Get down in the pits and keep mining perseverance. Deep down in our brains, in our souls, in our emotions, and in our bodies. And I know it. We will wear a crown. We will live in the sky, and we will be full of joy in this place that pain, sadness, and groans fled. Gird yourself with strength. Strengthen yourself in the lamp of your ardor shining forth, nourished by this oil that is the force of the soul. So, we keep trying, don't we? Keep trying. Somebody wrote a comment, and it was a good thought, I think. It's a good thought about suffering, and mentioned, that we can do things with the mind. Do things with the mind to overcome pain. The person mentioned, that we can, if we have a real strong emotional reaction to something, that we will feel as if we get through I'm trying to think of the word. Can't think of it. Not steroids, the emotions that emotions can create for us, that we can get through something. Adrenaline was, the person brought that up. It's in a comment about how, adrenaline can get us through something if we have a strong emotional reaction. And I pointed out, in handling pain, it would be useful to have that. And I pointed out when I had ecstasies every Mass for a few years, for like 4 years, then I kept getting kicked out. The priest didn't, and the people didn't like it that I was having those ecstasies. I couldn't help it, but people will be people. So I kept getting run out of parishes. So anyway, but it doesn't really, even the ecstasy, I didn't feel any pain in the ecstasy. It was all glorious. Close with God, united with God during Mass. An ecstasy, just glory, glory. But when I would be out of the ecstasy, my body would be on fire with pain from sitting. Just because you don't feel the pain when you're in ecstasy doesn't mean that the pain's gone. You feel it in your body when you come out of the ecstasy. And that's the same thing. You can have an enlightening experience, some great emotional reaction to something. And the endorphins, have you all pumped up and you don't feel things. Think of the fire walkers. They walk through the fire. And they could sustain that for a short while, but not for long. They're going to burn. They're going to burn. They'll burn the bottom of their feet if they stay in the fire. So, no, there's no way around suffering, really. There isn't. A miracle. You can have a miracle. You can have short-term release of pain, but it's going to come back and hit you. Like the ecstasies. I'd lose capacity of my body. During Mass, I would slump down. People said I just sort of slumped. I'd come out of it after Mass, and wow, how glorious while I was in that state. Glorious being with God. No pain, no suffering. Just this deep awareness of love and joy and of God. But once that left, I was back in my body. I had been sitting, and my pain was like shot up. And it wasn't immediate. Maybe it'd be 20 minutes after that the ecstasy, the after effects would wear off. And I would be like pain medicine had worn off. Except the pain medicine never takes it away totally. The ecstasy, I was in union with God. I felt nothing but bliss. Nothing. No awareness of my body. No sensation of my body. Just my soul in God. And it was love and joy. And then it went into like a dark, silent, blissful peacefulness. A nothingness of depth and peace. And then gradually coming out after Mass was over, toward the very end even. And the peak was during the consecration. That was the peak of the depth. And from then on, it was just until the end. So yes, but see, it's not lasting. So even if you did have, say, even an ecstasy, just God decided to do that, to give you a break from pain. And maybe he was in part giving me that during Mass as a break from pain. And a reminder, it was the closest thing to my death experience. But it was also meant as a sign of the Mass to people, the power of the Mass, the glory of the Mass. And that we can unite with God, that the Mass is the stairway to heaven. It's the whole thing represents, union with God. It builds to that. And it's the opening. It's the portal to heaven. The mystic portal, Mass is. Consecration is where the priest stands and shows us to the other side. But see, no one was interested in that. The bishop and the Reverend Monsignor were too busy fussing around about trying to figure out how it was happening or what was happening. And if I was making it happen to get attention or something. So they were thinking, because they couldn't control it, see. It bugged them to pieces. And they hadn't experienced it. That got to them too, although they never expressed it. So then they decided it was just some kind of surely had some kind of a temporal explanation. Partly with me doing something, or so they were way off, and they missed out. And the bishop, he got so awful to me. He got plucked out within 3 months, he got plucked out of when he was very, very mean to me, verbally, haughty, and was nasty. And I felt so terrible for him. That was the time that I called my spiritual dad. I was crying. I said, we've got to pray for him. He's a soul in big trouble. A soul in big trouble. And he was mocking the ecstasies. He was mocking God. And within 6 weeks, he was diagnosed with aggressive brain cancer. And a couple months after that, he was gone. Oh, isn't that sad? But I'm sure he understands now. Jesus talked with him and explained. So I'm thinking he's in heaven. Surely he would be. I prayed for that. All the good he did in his life. And then he messed up with someone big time. Oh, sad. But redeemed. And his father, Vincent, wanted me to write to him before he died and tell him how he'd hurt me and how wrong he was to have done that. No, I said, no, Jesus will explain it to him. Jesus will explain it. I'd forgiven him, but, So, I think this is so true here about, if we understand these things, since we know them, if you've experienced suffering, and it doesn't have to be physical suffering, it can be emotional or mental or situational suffering. Like if you're in a marriage that you've lost love for one another, but you stay with it and you keep trying and trying your best, and you break through, and all of a sudden you're going to see that person as someone you can really love, really love. I know situations of where the husband and wife have grown apart, and the husband is keeping busy and doing this and that to get his needs fulfilled of people and enjoying and women, even in being around women in a safe way, so to speak, or think so, or whatever. And the wife seems depressed or something not right. They're definitely not together as far as emotionally or love together. Don't do things together, or hadn't. And then I know this other situation, and they were about at the same point. But that woman had mental illness, and was still, having shock treatments and medications that had to be watched, and had her personality was altered by the medications. Wasn't ever going to be the same as the person he married. And it was very hard for that man. He, no more, really sex it lost the libido for, the drive, because it was like someone he didn't know, and more maybe robotic, or I don't know how you would describe it, but the mind had been, just the shock treatments altered the mind. And but I kept on him to go to mass. You should be going daily, and got into my bossy little self that I can be, and get into the spiritual life, And the husband started, helping out with the church some, just a little bit here and there. Then helped out with mass, started to altar serve. They asked, when the bishop would come, he would be the altar server then. Then he became, every day, then he became the sacristan. And he taught the kids. He got really involved, but also at home. I think he talked to his priest or something. Something happened. he had a conversion, and he re-fell in love with his wife, but in a different way. He's her caretaker. He tends her, he's her caretaker, and he makes sure that they do things daily. They watch movies together, they cook meals together, they make plans. He makes sure that they go places every day of interest to him also, and includes her in his life. And then she has become really like a religious. She has a routine because her mind fit very much into that with the meds, into very much a routinized existence. And she put it all into spiritual life too, in her way of that her mind could do. And it's miraculous to see. He genuinely loves her. She is like a treasure to the husband now, and part of his life, and part of his sanctification. I don't know how it would have been had maybe she not had gone through such suffering for herself. And yes, she suffered. I'm sure she realizes that she's altered from how she had been. Of course, what she has was hereditary, and it came on over time and then got very, very severe, which required the shock treatments and now heavy medications. Believe me, my pain meds are nothing compared to what she's on that, has altered. But she reads, she reaches out to other people. But it affected her social life terribly. I'm her good friend, but look at me, I'm an outcast. But there's a woman in their neighborhood that she calls and reaches out to and takes the church bulletin to and checks on this older woman, and reaches out, cares. She belongs to a book group with her church and Bible study, and they're just doing great. They're doing great. What amazing people. Love of God, love of each other, and living as we're supposed to live, for Christ and for one another. So I want to talk about that in another video. It's one we're going to walk around and check on, because there's roses are blooming. And the John Paul II rose is going crazy with white blooms. And other flowers are blooming, that the Canterbury bells are blooming. But I want to talk next about love, how we come close to God. Because the other night when I was up and couldn't sleep, I found out that I don't know if it was a fake thing from Pope Leo or a real one, because they do this AI stuff, this AI false intelligence thing. They make up videos of people and it sounds like them, it looks like them, but it isn't really them talking. But he had something like 7 steps to getting close to God. Pope Leo the 14th, this new pope. And it seemed okay, but it's what made me realize it was just so many words. I don't know it, and I realized it was the cart before the horse on getting close to God. And all of a sudden I realized I've been sort of going off on the wrong track. So I want to talk about that in a video. So we'll do that another time. But suffering there's lots of good in suffering. But just thinking about this couple and how they turned their lives each of them into a love story. I think the man's just turning 80 this summer, and the wife is 75 and a half, or maybe 76. I think she'll be 76 in December. And they chose a different way. They took the suffering for each of them and created spiritual lives for each of them, and love for each one. And it's amazing. They're like married hermits, in a way. They don't. In fact, they've gone to visit family this week today, and they have his friends come and with their wives or things, and they love each other. They love each other. And they're together. They're together. They're together. They do together, and they enjoy together. They have found things they enjoy. So I'm encouraging couples who have lost their love for each other, or their interest, or don't feel they're in love anymore, or don't have interest that they share. It can change. It can change. God bless His real presence in us. I'm going to take the dogs out now, and I do want to talk about this love thing, though, that I've come to. It's very important how we come to Jesus, how we get close to God and understand also. It's love. It's love.